want to see a world where there is no more suffering of stray dogs. And our mission is that. And if you'd asked me 20 years ago, would Soi Dog be where it is today? As I said, you were crazy. Look, it doesn't matter what you're doing in life. When you want to change something, you have to take that first step. It doesn't matter whether you're climbing a hill or wanting to end world poverty, it's always the same thing. You have to start somewhere. And nobody at that time in Phuket was really doing anything about it. The situation was really quite desperate. Wherever you looked, every street, every market, there were dogs everywhere. And sadly, most of them were hairless, they suffered from mange, they were skeletal, there wasn't literally enough food to go around to feed them all. And it was a really desperate situation. There was just no control at all over the reproduction of these dogs. If we could stop the influx of new puppies by neutering, particularly the female dogs, we could begin to get on top of the situation. The very first sterilisation clinics were really on a par with what we do now. They were mobile clinics, but in those days it was just Jill, Margot and myself. We were the nurses, the dog catchers, the vet assistants, and we relied entirely on volunteer vets coming from overseas. Occasionally we would be blessed with nurses as well, which was a real bonus, but most of the time it was us doing the anaesthetics, which were all injectable in those days, catching the dogs. We taught ourselves to dart, the vets taught us how to give the injections, the IV injections, and we would literally calculate the quantities based on the weight by weighing the dogs, holding them on a pair of bathroom scales. We had a little table for the vet, and that was it. In the beginning, the impact was very small, but it was a start. It was that first step that we needed to take.
That was it. That was it. Then all I could focus on to get me through this was to concentrate on getting my life back. Just the fight. I knew I was going to have a fight. I had to start working out, building myself up, focusing myself mentally, because it's a mental battle as well as a physical battle to get yourself walking again. And I just focused on, my goal was to get back to working with the dogs and helping the dogs.
The tsunami was a shocking event, of course, but out of something bad, often something good can happen. And in terms of Soi Dog, it did have the impact of putting us on the map and improving the work we did. The actual day of the tsunami was just like a normal day, and it wasn't until later when we got a phone call from Margot to say that Jill's best friend, Leonie, who was also a volunteer, had been killed in the south of the island going to the rescue of tourists on the beach. The following days, though, that's when we got more involved. Jill, as I say, had just come out of hospital. 4 days before, she was still in a wheelchair, but we were told that tens of thousands of people had been killed up the coast in Khao. And so Jill and I decided to go up there with other friends. Jill went to the hospital where she was, able to give counselling and talk to people having gone through a trauma herself. So those were my overriding memories of the tsunami and the immediate aftermath. Once the rescue teams, professional rescue teams from other countries came in, we then turned our attention very much to the dogs. So many have been displaced. Their natural food sources from the restaurants on the beaches are gone. All have been destroyed. And because of the worldwide attention on the tsunami, we got inundated with volunteer vets at that time. We were running numerous multiple mobile clinics, with Jill running one and myself and Margot running them. And literally, that's how it was for 3 or 4 months, working round the clock. But one thing that did happen for us, which I say ended up being a positive, was that, as usual, many of the big international charities ran fundraising appeals. One of them at the time was known as Whisper, and they would give us a grant. It was a 2-year grant. They called the Tsunami Recovery Programme. It was enough to enable us to employ our first vets and indeed first dog catchers, and from that point on our numbers started to increase. The starting of the sterilisation programme in Bangkok began as a result of the Bangkok floods towards the end of 2011 and early 2012, which have been heavily involved with rescuing large numbers of dogs and caring for them during that flood outbreak. And that prompted in me a feeling that really we could do with doing something in Bangkok, because again, although there were groups in Bangkok, not a lot was happening.
หมอเห็นว่าตั้งแต่สมัยหมอเกิดมาเนี่ยก็เกิดมาในครอบครัวคนไทยปกติที่มาจะสอนลูกว่าถ้าเจอหมาตัวนึงบนท้องถนนเนี่ยนะครับก็ให้โทรหาเทศบาลโทรหาเทศกิจมาจับมันไปนะครับมันก็เป็นคำถามหมอมาตลอดว่าทำแบบนี้มันถูกหรือเปล่านะครับโครงการ CNVR ครับเริ่มต้นมาจากไอเดียที่ว่าเราอยากจะให้เมืองหลวงเนี่ยของประเทศไทยก็คือกรุงเทพมหานครเนี่ยเป็นเมืองแรกนะครับที่ปราศจากสัตว์จรจัดหรือว่าสัตว์จรจัดอยู่ในจำนวนที่สามารถควบคุมและพัฒนาเรื่องสวัสดิภาพสัตว์ได้สมัยก่อนตอนที่เราเริ่มโครงการใหม่ๆเนี่ยการเข้าถึงพื้นที่นั้นยากมากเนื่องจากคนไม่รู้จักเราใช่ไหมครับความท้าทายในการดำเนินโครงการ CNVR นะครับก็เราถ้าย้อนกลับไปเมื่อตอนเริ่มแรกเนี่ยคนไทยยังไม่ค่อยคุ้นเคยกับมูลนิธิ Soi Dog แล้วก็ไม่คุ้นเคยกับโครงการการทำหมันและทำวัคซีนนะครับก็คือเขาอาจจะเคยเห็นโครงการทำหมันที่เกิดขึ้นเดือนละครั้งหรือปีละครั้งนะครับแต่ไม่เคยเห็นโครงการที่ทำงานทุกวันนะครับปัญหานี้เกิดมาตั้ง 40-50 ปีก่อนหน้านี้นะครับจะเร่งให้3 วัน 5 วันแก้ไขปัญหานี้จบคงไม่ได้อาจจะต้องใช้เวลาอย่างน้อยประมาณสัก 10-20 ปีนะครับ
เท่าที่พบเจอนะคะก็ปฏิกิริยาค่ะก็มีหลายแบบ ถ้าสมมุติว่าเป็นคนที่ไม่ได้เลี้ยงสุนัขมาก่อนแล้วก็ไม่ได้สนใจเรื่องปัญหาสุนัขจรจัดอะค่ะก็จะเข้ามาถามว่าเราทำอะไรกันเราทำไปเพื่ออะไร
เราสามารถเอาความเข้าใจนี้ไปให้กับคนที่ไม่เคยรู้เรื่องนี้มาก่อนเลยเขาก็ยังสามารถเข้าใจมันได้นะครับแล้วเขาก็ยังเห็นด้วยว่าโอเคสำหรับบริบทของประเทศไทยแล้วเราควรจะต้องแก้ไขปัญหาแบบมีมนุษยธรรมลักษณะนี้นะครับจะเกิดผลสำเร็จในวันข้างหน้าสำหรับโครงการ CNVR นะครับก็จะสำเร็จไม่ได้เลยนะครับถ้าขาดความร่วมมือของทุกคนที่ช่วยกันและในส่วนหนึ่งเนี่ยครับของความสำเร็จนี้ก็มาจากทุนที่เราได้รับจากมูลนิธิ Dog Trust Worldwide นะครับ ทุกคนอาจจะนึกภาพไม่ออกว่ามูลนิธิเพื่อสัตว์มูลนิธิหนึ่งเนี่ยที่เติบโตมากว่า100 ปีเนี่ยเขาจะทำ impact หรือว่าผลลัพธ์นะครับในเชิงบวกให้กับโลกเรามากแค่ไหนนะครับดอกทัฟเวอร์ไวเป็นหนึ่งในมูลนิธินั้นนะครับแล้วก็เขายังให้ทุนกึ่งหนึ่งนะครับเพื่อให้เรามารันโครงการในประเทศไทยเพราะฉะนั้นสิ่งนี้ก็จะเกิดขึ้นในกรุงเทพอย่างเดียวไม่ได้มันจึงต้องเกิดขึ้นในปริมณฑลโดยรอบกรุงเทพด้วยหลังจากงานนี้เราทำมา20 ปีครับเราก็เห็นการเปลี่ยนแปลงที่ดีในเชิงของแน่นอนครับเรื่องของจำนวนสุนัขที่อยู่ในพื้นที่กรุงเทพมหานครและปริมณฑลรวมถึงพื้นที่ภาคใต้ที่เราทำงานมาหมดแล้วเนี่ยเกิด Impact ในเชิงของปัญหาที่ลดลงในแต่ละพื้นที่ครับ
ปีนี้เป็นปีที่เราทำหมันครบ1 ล้านตัวเป็นที่เรียบร้อยแล้วซึ่งถามความรู้สึกแรกตัวเลขนี้เป็นตัวเลขที่ยิ่งใหญ่มากๆค่ะมันไม่ใช่ความยิ่งใหญ่แค่ในแง่ของตัวเลขอย่างเดียวแต่มันหมายถึงการร่วมมือกันของทุกคน
People are noticing now that there are less dogs on the street. They are in better condition. That stray dogs aren't something to be frightened of or feared. And this is happening.
สุนัขที่เคยผอมสุนัขที่เป็นโรคผิวหนังลดลงนะครับแม่สุนัขที่เราเคยเจอว่าวิ่งนะครับเต้านมกระเตงเพื่อเลี้ยงลูกนะฮะก็จะไม่เห็นภาพนั้นในพื้นที่รวมถึงลูกสุนัขก็ลดลงในแต่ละพื้นที่ด้วยนี่ก็คือผลสำเร็จส่วนหนึ่งที่มาจากโครงการของCNVR ครับการเปลี่ยนแปลงในเชิงบวกนะครับจึงเกิดขึ้นกับตัวสัตว์โดยตรงในเรื่องของสวัสดิภาพสัตว์ที่ดีขึ้นครับ
Jill dreamed of a world-class facility where dogs could receive the absolute highest standards of care in the best possible surroundings, and you only have to see that to see how she achieved it.
Animals feel pain the same as we do. They need food, they need a doctor when they're sick, they need a safe place to sleep, they need somebody to love them. That is domestic animals.
In the early days, well, when we first moved into those premises, the original hospital was an old cattle shed with no sides, which we converted. And although we did the best we could with it, the facilities were very basic, and it was always really upset Jill that we couldn't have something better than that. So she made it her project that she was going to build the best possible hospital for her beloved stray dogs. And she basically devoted what was to be the last 5 years of her life to that project. From designing it, from researching everything, working literally around the clock.
I can imagine how difficult it was when Soi Dog had a small treatment clinic here. Most of our vets who are work here now can remember, including me, but he knows.
Yes, I do. I remember it's being really small and limited to the care. We have like the small kennel, just 10 dogs or something. It's needed to improve and grow because the number of the animals coming in was rising.
This hospital is 7 years old now. There is 180 dogs in here, plus 180 cats in the cat hospital, which was opened in 2019, and more in isolation hospital. These numbers never go down, and greater outreach by Soi Dog means we are able to find more stray animals who need our help. You can see you heal one and another one alive, and it's crazy in here most days.
We are so happy and basis that we have this fabulous facility to be able to help them. I think the price of Jill's dream became a reality. Not only did she want to provide the best care to the animal possible, she wanted to help as many animals as possible too. We are proud to carry on her vision.
Now we have 50 staff working in the hospital, and I'm so proud to working with them all.
I wanted to get involved in the dog meat trade. It goes back in fact to 2007 when I saw a photograph of a truck broken down at the side of the road in Laos. It was in the Bangkok Post, with just a caption saying over 1,000 dogs, Thai dogs, on the side of a road destined for the slaughterhouses of Vietnam. And I had no idea at that stage that a dog meat trade existed in Thailand. At that time we were still tiny, there really wasn't much we could do. But in 2011, we're in a position where I felt we could start to do something. Eating of dog meat was actually not illegal. You know, you could kill dogs for meat, and that happened in many areas of northeastern Thailand and northern Thailand already. What was illegal was the transportation of dogs across international borders without the proper paperwork and without them being vaccinated against rabies, which wasn't happening. So initially we were using those laws and we were organising interceptions, and we started with small-scale interceptions initially. What we really wanted to happen, of course, was have a law invoked to make it illegal to kill dogs in Thailand, never mind the transporting and smuggling of them. Then, in 2014, there was the military coup occurred in Thailand. And again, if you say something good comes out of something bad, that happened again here because the military were keen to push through some popular bills that people wanted pushing through that had been sat on for years on the statute books without ever getting passed into law. I was able to meet with some of the senior generals and push for the animal welfare bill to get taken on board, which it was. By the end of 2014, saw dog meat consumption, killing of dogs in effect, for any purpose other than by a vet, made illegal. So that changed the whole framework of it. However, it's one thing to have stopped the trade in Thailand. I was always very conscious that obviously it's still continuing in Vietnam and other countries, and if the Vietnamese weren't getting the dogs from Thailand, where were they getting them from? And so that led me to try and look at ways we could impact and end the dog meat trade, not only in Thailand, but across Southeast Asia and Thailand.
Since we ended the trade in Thailand, Soi Dog has sought to bring an end to it across Asia. We've taken action in Vietnam, South Korea, Cambodia, and the Philippines. In Vietnam, it's been a long process, but it's fitting that in the year of our 20th anniversary, real progress is being made for dogs and cats.
For the first time in the history of Vietnam, Soi Dog Foundation International hosted a roundtable at the National Assembly. The National Assembly of Vietnam is the highest constitutional authority, and to talk about dog and cat meat trade openly with high-ranking government officials and ministers and decide how to go about finding an end to something which has no place in today's day and age. We are now working closely at the highest levels of the Vietnam government to improve laws, to create enforcement strategies, and work on a pilot project by banning dog and cat meat trade in one of the largest cities in Vietnam. In the Philippines, it's a trade which has been banned, but it exists in an illegal underground format. It's clearly a problem of demand. The supply is limited, and people are willing to take risks of going to prison if they were caught. A lack of enforcement, people were easily able to do so. That is not the case today, since the Animal Kingdom Foundation and Soi Dog relaunched a new campaign. There have been several raids, and more than 50 animals have been rescued. All these raids have made the national media, and 9 people are behind bars at this point of time and are being prosecuted. We want to show them we are everywhere so that they get the message that eating dog meat in Philippines is illegal and they could go to jail for that.
In life, we need to make the most of our opportunities, and we are doing that. We are now seeking constitutional changes to effect large-scale impact across the region and to end this awful practice forever.
In the early years, Soi Dog helping animals in the tsunami and in the Bangkok floods. We are lucky now, 20 years on, to be in a position where If there is a disaster, then across Asia and beyond, we can help, we can support, we can be there for animals who are caught up in disasters, who need our help. So I think, again, it's casting that net wider and really being there and helping when needed. And I'm proud that we can do that.
In reality, it was 1998 that the first seeds were sown, as far as Jill and I were concerned, in starting Soi Dog Foundation. We were there on Phuket on holiday. We used to go every year. And in 1998, we met a dog who we christened Naga. But to cut a very long story short, Naga disappeared, and we were to find out later that he'd been brutally killed by the hotel security simply for being where he wasn't wanted. Sadly, one of the things that we see a lot of course, is cruelty cases, and a good example of that is Cola. It was just, we think, about 7 or 8 months old, and like any young dog, was inquisitive, and one of his neighbours, who was a workman, and left his boots outside his front door, as they do in Thailand, and Cola went up and started nibbling at it. The lady who owned Cola at that time, and his mother and siblings, offered to pay the guy for a new pair of boots. Obviously the guy thought differently and came round. We had this long ceremonial sword he had and chopped Cola's legs off in effect of telling him, well, you won't be doing that again. Cola was rushed by a local rescue group to a local hospital where they weren't really equipped to take care of such a case. Contacted us, we got Cola evacuated to a much larger, more well-equipped veterinary practice. And I happened to be up in Bangkok at that time. And as soon as I saw Cola, I thought, I think I know somebody who's going to want you, fellow double amputee, and told Jill about him, and the rest is history. Cola is a good representation of really what we do as a foundation, and he represents the strength and resilience of the Asian street dog. From his rescue, recovery and rehabilitation, and finally adoption, to his ability to forgive humans despite his experiences. His story does give hope to every mistreated, abused or neglected stray dog. Our social change initiatives bolster that hope, and great strides have been made in changing attitudes in the general population.
In the past, we would have a couple of cruelty cases. We always did, you know, but it would be more often we would find them. We would go out and find these cruelty cases. Because what we see is that, you know, when there are so many, they are something less of value because, you know, new animals will come and go, dogs will die, others will appear, and, you know, it's like the cycle of life, right? So people were used to this kind of reality. Dogs and cats have lived with the communities for years on the streets as free-roaming, free animals, and been fed very often by multiple people, not only one household. This is why we were so successful with our CNVR program, where we are actually able to intervene and sterilize these animals and send them back to their territories. This would not work in a Western country like the UK, for example, or Poland, where I'm from. People would not accept these animals back on the street. Whereas here, pretty much every dog and cat has a feeder, if not an owner, who allows them to free roam. You know, everybody knows that a dog or a cat needs food and water, but very often that's where the knowledge ends. But of course, animals have needs the same as ours. So dogs and cats, they need to have access to veterinary care. They need to have the freedom to express their normal behavior, to play, to scratch, to run, to be with other animals or be solitary if they're a solitary animal. Like a cat is not happy with 5 other cats in a cage. So to kind of open people's minds and heart to see animals as sentient beings and creatures that have more needs, and that food and water is not enough. What we are trying to introduce is take it a step further. Basically, when you see an animal that needs medical attention, that has been hit by a car, for example, or is just ill, if you see animal cruelty, if you see an animal badly neglected, then you take action. CNVR is going to be our leading program for many years to come. But parallel to that, we must grow our community engagement programs like humane education, social change, also going out in the community with our COP, which is our community outreach program. So we are there, of course, to help, and we will be there for a long time yet. But as society changes, we're very hopeful for the young generation, where they choose to have 1 dog or 2 dogs and not necessarily 5 dogs roaming in the street. They make sure that they sterilize their dogs, they vaccinate their dogs, they spend money and time on these animals. We're sensitizing the young generation to the needs of animals. There's a lot of good people in Thailand who are feeding the dogs. So only in Phuket, between Phuket and Phang Nga, which is very nearby, we have 120 feeders that we support. Not only in Phuket and Phang Nga, but across Thailand. There'll be tens of thousands of feeders. So people who are feeding, some of them may be only 2 or 3 dogs, some of them will be feeding up to 100 dogs. Every single day they go out and feed these dogs. So this is really why we are able to work with people. And I think there's a huge chance to convert these feeders into more active participants who fight for animal welfare, who can then do that extra more, who can spread the knowledge and that sensitivity to other people in the community. So only then things will change, yes? So it is a gradual process, but we've seen a lot of improvement already. Now, on a daily basis, we have people emailing us, calling us about not only cruelty cases, but neglected animals. So like a dog on a chain with a big wound, for example, things that they don't accept to see. And not only they don't accept it, they will speak up about it. So this is already a big shift, I feel. This makes all the difference because we can then go and engage the police and get prosecutions, get this in the newspapers, get this out in the media, and show the wider community, the wider society in Thailand that it's not accepted, it's not okay, and it's good to speak out against this. And together we can stop this. But together we can stop this, not Soi Dog alone, together. To stand up for animals' rights, it takes a lot, right? It takes a changing of a mindset. People are no longer taking things like this for granted. They're not ignoring neglect. Since the beginning of Soi Dog, we've been working closely with the government and various government bodies regarding animal welfare. So Soi Dog was actually instrumental in developing and creating the Animal Welfare Act of 2014, which now stands as a guideline for animal welfare. We are involved in various committees at the national level where we advise on animal welfare guidelines for various different entities, but also we are working to work on the Animal Welfare Act further to kind of broaden it and specify so that not only we but any animal welfare organization has a little bit more power to implement these things. So we are invited to various meetings and committees, which is also a huge step forward because now our voice is heard.
Without volunteers in those early days, Soi Dog quite simply wouldn't be what it is today. Every non-profit organisation, whatever it is, relies totally on the kindness and generosity of its supporters. And Soi Dog is to this day represented by wonderful supporters, volunteers from the world over, people who are helping to keep our dream alive. And that continues around the world today. We established support organisations, we call them, in different countries around the world. But all these foundations have their own boards, and all these boards are volunteers. And they're manned by people who are doing it because of a love of animals.
Our shelter volunteers are truly invaluable, not only to the sanctuary but to the dogs and the cats who call the Jill Dali Sanctuary their home. What initially draws them in is their love of animals. They prepare the dogs for life outside the shelter through our adoption programme and also provide love and care and enrichment. They leave with the feeling of Soi Dog magic, so yeah, it's great. Of course, you know, that one of the valuable things that our shelter volunteers bring to the animals is they teach them to be dogs. They teach them to be able to trust humans. A lot of these dogs have spent their lives on the streets. They love humans, they want interaction, they want to feel secure, and what our volunteers bring is the ability for them to trust, to learn how to be dogs, to play, to walk on a lead, to enjoy life and not be worried and scared, to get them ready and prepared for a life of love and care so they feel happy, secure, and really what every dog deserves. One of the things that makes everything worthwhile is our adoption programme. To see a dog or cat leave for a new life is what we all strive for. Our adoption team work extremely hard here, matching the right dogs to the right home, to the right environment. They give them support, and not just our team here, but our adoptions volunteer team across the world. Along with our partner rescue programme, where they adopt dogs from us throughout the US and even now in Europe and in the UK. So yeah, I think everybody will say that is the ultimate icing on the cake, is when you see dog and cats leave and have the life they were meant to have. There are so many happy adoption stories that it brings immense pleasure, not to just all of the staff here that have interacted, but the adopters as well. It's two-way. These dogs and cats, they just bring so much joy. We can't thank adopters enough. When we see these animals on the brink of death, when they come in, you don't even know if they're going to survive. And then when you see them just happy playing in a comfy bed, there is nothing more emotional, satisfying and happy than seeing that. So yeah, that to me has got to be it's just got to be one of the most rewarding and fulfilling things that's part of Soi Dog.
I've never had a dog touch my heart so much, and I immediately felt a connection to her, and that I needed to do anything and everything to help her, to reach out, to see what could be done, to offer up a home if she needed one. Just her ability, her resilience, her happiness, her energy, her forgiveness, her joy, her empathy. It's just the most incredible thing to see from a dog that looked so broken when she got to that shelter. And that's what's important to know about dogs like Amira, that they have so much inside. Yes, she's a senior. Yes, she looks disabled, but this girl is not disabled. She is perfectly able.
I saw their rescue story several years prior when their mom and her two other siblings were rescued from the streets of Phuket. And their story caught my attention because the mom was blind and so was May and one of her other siblings. And it really pulled at my heartstrings.
I'd say the most special thing about Poppy is her ability to persevere. It is incredible that she lived another minute. Not just another day, not just another week or month, but another minute. She held on, she wanted to fight, she is a survivor.
The bond that you create with these dogs, they're like no other, and I don't know how to explain that, but they are very special in terms of their intelligence, their emotional skills. It is something that I have never regretted, and this is the third time, so yeah, it's a great experience.
It's incredible. It is absolutely the most incredible experience that I've had with an animal. She's amazing.
We have 2 other dogs and we have 5 cats, a couple kids. So we have a very full house, and she's just become a wonderful part of that. It's such a perfect addition to our home.
My hope for other shelter dogs like Poppy is that they eventually, one day, will know what peace is. Mental peace, peace in their heart, just peace to be able to lay down and not have to sleep with one eye open. I hope they get to experience love. At the end of the day, we all deserve love. 4-legged, 3-legged, or 2.
I'm proud of where it's come. I mean, 3 animal hospitals, treating more animals than any other organisation in the world, education program, working with governments, ending the dog meat trade in Thailand, all these things, I look back, I think, what they achieved.
สามารถเดินหน้าดำเนินงานนะครับต่อเนื่องไปได้อีก 20 ปีในวันข้างหน้าเนี่ยหมอคาดหวังนะครับที่จะเห็นโครงการ CNVR เนี้ยสามารถไปถึงใน 71 จังหวัดทั่วประเทศไทยนะครับ
I feel that we've done, Soi Dog's come so far, and we've achieved a lot together, but there's still a long way to go. For me, it would be a change in behavior, and attitude and behavior of people that will really, create a sustainable change, an everlasting change. The hope is to sensitize people, for people to feel connected to animals, to nature, to animals, and to take action, to realize that their actions really mean everything. Yeah.
For me, Soi Dog has a responsibility to share what we've learned over the last 20 years and help others. And that's important to me, to work together, to share, to learn, and improving veterinary medicine and care and experience. It's about raising the standards of animal welfare.
We always said from the start, if we reach a moment in time when there is no longer a need for Soi Dog to exist, then we will have achieved our mission. The suffering of animals will be no more, and we'll be living in a world where kindness wins over cruelty. A world that is safe for our canine and feline companions.